Okay, we're recording now, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The wonders of technology, and let's hope everything goes okay. So my name is Tom Hickey. I'm the ERP Practice Director. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this morning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through an introduction to Codec for about 8 to 10 minutes, depending. And then I'm going to hand over to the important person, Gemma. She's one of our senior ERP functional consultants. And on the call as well, as I said, we have one of our marketing executives, Sinead. So Sinead will be looking after you. Unfortunately, I have to drop off not long after I finish my session introduction, but Sinead and Gemma will be with you till the end. So thank you very much for attending again. So Sinead, I think I'll start.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
No. Okay. So as I said, I'm going to do a brief introduction into Codec, and then Gemma will take over and run through dynamics. From an ERP perspective, there are a number of different options with Microsoft Finance and Supply Chain Management, as well as Business Central, but we're going to focus on Business Central today, and Gemma's going to give you a look and feel of the system and go through then reporting and mention briefly about Codec Labs at the end before we go into the questions session at the end. So we're in the third era of IT. Gartner have surveyed over 3,000 CIOs, and as digital is top of mind, these results tell us that as a business, if you're not on the digital train, potentially you're missing out. Excuse me. For organizations who want to go on the digital journey, they need a partner who is dependable and that will allow them to reduce costs and suppliers while delivering the expertise they expect and the innovations that make this journey easier. So, who are Codec? With offices in Belfast, in Dublin, in Galway, Cork, London, I never remember the name, Suwałki, it's on it, very well done, and Cologne, where there's a lot of different parts to our business, but it's important that we're around since 1985. We have a lot of experience built in the different industries. And by dealing with companies that you will recognize on this, we know that no two customers or no two implementations are the same. So the diverse range of experience that we've built dealing with these businesses over the years is crucial and a real USP for Codec. And here an example of some of the customers that we've implemented Dynamics ERP into, just so you can see. Now, our relationship with our customers is vital, and our staff are the face of Codec with our clients. So we've surveyed them on why they work in Codec. And what they've told us is that the nature of the projects we do, they're exciting and challenging projects. So they need to know more and do more, and this helps them challenge to grow, and it gives them enjoyment in the tasks that they do, but not just for our teams, also for our customers, because the projects are challenging. So interestingly, our approach has seen Microsoft nominate us or give us the award for Microsoft Dynamics Partner of the Year 7 years out of the last 9 years, and 5 years in a row. We've won other awards with Microsoft because of the approach we take within our business and with our consultants. But the most important piece of this page is really the middle with our list of accreditations. The average Microsoft partner will have about 6 of these accreditations, but this shows that we are a real, true, full stack partner for Microsoft. And we take these very seriously because they help us deliver solutions on each part of the business that you would need to deal with Microsoft vendors on. So when we say vendors, we mean these different areas that you might need to have a partner working with you on, regardless of which part of the business it affects. We do them all. So we are the one true Codec full stack Microsoft full stack partner in Ireland. And traditionally, when a business has different vendors that they work with for different parts of the technology stack that they have, it can be challenging. And you know, to use a car analogy, the guy who fixes your windscreen knows nothing about your engine. But when you have a consolidated partner that you're working with, the challenges that you face change significantly, because with one-time entry of information, you have one version of the truth and one owner of all the headaches if you need to have conversations with your partner. So the approach that we take is the approach of the Big Four. Predicted value realization is an in-house methodology that has been developed from our experience over the hundreds of projects that we've been on over the years, and it's proven very successful in helping us implement solutions with our customers. All of our project managers are experienced Prince2 certified, and this is essentially a list of what they do and how our customers benefit from their experience. Importantly for our customers, security is embedded in our organization so that we are making sure that we protect everything that's important to our customer and all aspects of it. From an innovation perspective, where there are gaps in solutions that Microsoft provide, Codec Lab comes in and helps with the solutions that we are implementing. An example of some of the solutions that we've developed would be the one that we've built for GDPR for Dynamics 365. It's an extensive solution that we offer to our customers and that we are able to adopt to different customer requirements. In addition, we have 18 accelerators developed right now, and we call them accelerators because they accelerate the solution delivery and give the customers that bit more extensibility on the solution itself. So this is why we think you should talk to us more and allow us to show you why Codec are the partner you should be working with both now and in the future. Okay, so thank you for, and I think I said about 8 minutes. So Gemma, if you want to take back, I'll stop taking control now. So I'll hand over to Gemma.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. Okay, so today we are going to have a look at the Microsoft offerings for the ERP systems. So they have, the first question is that we have seen, sorry, apologies, we've seen the agenda. Tom has gone through the agenda. I'm going to do a look and feel after we have a quick discussion about why you would choose Business Central over Dynamics 365 over Finance and Operations. And then we're going to look at the reporting and we'll briefly mention about the Codec Labs. Okay, so we've seen that from Tom. So the key question is here, why do you look to implement an ERP system? So there are many reasons. The majority of customers who come to us who are looking for a new ERP system tend to have, sorry, so somebody's typing there, you might just mute yourself in the background, that'd be great. So for our customers that are looking for new ERP systems, what is that reason? Why do they need to change their ERP system? So it could be essentially the growth of the business is growing beyond the ability of their existing system. They may even have started off life with a very small ERP basic entry system, or they could be using Excel for certain parts of their business, and this is no longer manageable due to the number of transactions that is being generated. They may have disconnected systems. So you may have at one stage implemented a sales system to handle your sales invoicing, and then another system to handle your purchasing. And all of a sudden you're left with systems that are disconnected, they're not integrated together, and it causes problems and it consumes time for your staff where it's not necessary. A huge part of ERP systems where they fail is the reporting limitations. They can be too complex to create, or they can be too limited in what they provide. And lastly, you may have an outdated system. Your system may be coming to its end of life, it's no longer supported, and you want to upgrade to a newer offering. So systems with users with existing systems. So we've seen this slightly in the earlier slide. You may have separate systems, they're disconnected. So part of that disconnect means that you may have duplicate data. So you may have one system with customers in it and another system with customers in it, and you might have both processing transactions that are causing duplicate data. You may also have manual process, so you may have something that you would love to automate, but at the moment you can't. You do it manually, it's time consuming. For example, items such as typing things into Excel. You might have big long lists, and wouldn't it be great if you could copy that list from Excel into your ERP system really easily? At the moment that's not something you could do, but then maybe that's something you can do with a new ERP system. And again, we've covered the insufficient reporting option. Systems you may not be able to export out to Excel, and lastly, security issues. So you may have a small in-house team, and you may prefer to have the strength behind a system that Microsoft provides and security that a system like Microsoft provides. Okay, we have a small video here which is not playing, so I'm just going to skip past this one. So essentially, Business Central and finance for operations. So which system do you choose? So just to break it down for you, traditionally Business Central was known as NAV. You may have come across that term before. And Dynamics 365 for finance and for supply chain was originally the system called AX, which then morphed into finance and operations. And now that has split into two separate systems, Dynamics 365 for finance and Dynamics 365 for supply chain. So why do you go for F&O, or why do you go for Business Central? So when we compare them, usually it's classified that the large companies would be more attracted towards Dynamics 365 for finance, whereas the small to medium-sized organizations would go for Business Central. So is a question about, is it the size of a company? Is it based on the turnover, the number of users, the number of transactions? Is this important when choosing an ERP system? In fact, they're not. The general belief is that they would be, but they're not. So is there a difference in the functionality between the two systems? When you're looking at the two systems at a high level, there isn't. Both have purchasing, both have production, both have project management. So on first glance, it's very difficult to choose which system. So how do you know which is the right system? The key factors that come into it are the organization complexity. How complex is your business? That's the key question here. The organization scale. So the scale isn't so much a key indicator. It's more to do with where you're based. You may have multiple companies around the world. You may have different localizations needed, different languages needed, and it's those sort of different tax implications. It's those sort of complexities that are now beginning to answer for us which system that you need. Okay. So we have our summary. So generally the rule is that if you have a complex business model, you have complex VAT requirements globally, you have complex localizations needed globally, you have complex manufacturing where you've got multiple manufacturing lines, stages, complicated stages, So all of these would lead you towards the answer that Dynamics 365 for finance or for supply chain will be the option for you. If you've got simple enough needs, your system, you're trading within Ireland or within Europe, sometimes within the US, but you don't have multiple companies based all around the world, although you might. If you do you have complex VAT requirements? Is your business model quite simple? Do you simply buy in items and sell them off, or do you produce your own items and sell them out to customers then, or do you have a much more complex requirement? Services based, Business Central can handle that as well. No problem there either. It's all to do with the complexity of what you do, whether Business Central is a system for you or Dynamics 365 for finance and for supply chain management. Okay. So today I am a Business Central ERP consultant. So we're going to focus here today on Business Central. So what does Business Central provide? It provides, it's a vast system. It covers the requirements of a huge portion of companies in Ireland. It has financial management, project management, operations, sales and service management, supply chain, and reporting. Okay. So here we have a greater breakdown of the core capabilities of the system. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into the look and feel of the system, and I'm going to jump over into Business Central to do that. I'm going to minimize this for you, and I'm going to up my. Okay. So one of the key functions for Business Central is that every screen, every user is allocated a role. We call this their role center. So in this particular example, this role center here is for a business manager. So what does that mean? That means that what I'm seeing on my screen is shortcutted based on what I'm likely to do on my day-to-day business within the ERP system. So as a business manager, I have an overview. I have quick access into my list of customers, my vendors, my items, my banks, my general ledger accounts. Okay. I also have some key values down here that are queues. These show you, okay, I've got 4 unprocessed sales invoices. I've got outstanding sales orders. I've got purchase orders. I also have purchase orders that I'm due to approve. So all this information is shortcutted for me on my desktop, on my role center. I also have charts that give me key information. For example, I have my cash flow chart here, so I can see what my total receivables, my liquid funds, and my payables all over the course of 3 months. I can default to any favorite GL accounts that I might like to keep an eye on. For example, my banks, how are my banks doing? I can default them onto my account here. I have a mini trial balance, and all this is available for me without clicking anything. It's there for me when I just log on to my first page, my role center, when I come into Business Central. Okay. So just to show you how that looks for somebody else, we're going to have a look at a different role. So I'm going to just change out. I'm going to select the different role of the project manager. So there is a defined list of about 30 different role centers available in Business Central. You can also create your own. So as you can see here, it's very different to what we were looking at earlier. I have access to the jobs. So jobs are the projects that you set up as a project manager. Any tasks involved within those jobs. I still have access to customers' items. And now I have a new entry of resources on my company. It might be a service-based company, so we can bring in resources on jobs. I've shortcutted onto my desktop the 2 favorite jobs that I'm working on at the moment. So these are the ones that are critical to me. And based on this list, I can see what my job actuals versus budget based on the price, so I can see my variance as well. I also have profitability, so I have the same worked off the revenue versus the profit and the cost, so we can see that. We have job actual to budget. I also have an overview of timesheets. So within jobs, Users can submit timesheets, and I have access to that as well. I may be approving timesheets, so I would have any items, any timesheets sitting up for approval, I could see here under this particular queue. And all of this information is drillable. So I can drill in, for example, to this particular job. It's going to open up for me. It shows me where all those values are coming from. So I can get a huge amount of information just directly from my role center. Okay. I'm going to swap out and have a look at the Sales and Relationship Manager. Within Business Central, there is a CRM offering. So a lot of people wonder what is the difference between the CRM within Business Central and the Dynamics 365 for Sales offering by Microsoft. And really you're back down to that complexity question. Are your needs simple in CRM-ish, CRM-related functionality, in which case what is an offering within Business Central may be absolutely good enough for your requirements, or do you have much more complex requirements, in which case Dynamics 365 for Sales is the system for you. Okay, so straight away we can see we have an indicator of our pipeline. We can see how we're getting on. We can see the opportunities that are currently in progress for our sales rep. I can click into John Roberts here and I can have a look, and this will show me the 2 opportunities that are making up the dashboard on his role center or on my role center. I can also have access over here. The statistics for this particular opportunity are showing me, so we can see that our chance of success was 100% and we have indeed completed it, and we have our profitability on it as well. Now this is a good one. We can see down here that we have the red queue. It sticks out like a sore thumb. So why is it red? It's red because it has reached a criteria that we have set in the background. So in the background we said if you have overdue opportunities, 10 or more overdue opportunities, show this queue as being red. So that means that it's something that you must go and act on urgently, and that's the idea behind it. So you can place the rules around exactly what you want to see here. So when we drill into it, we can see that these are our 14 opportunities that are overdue. And we can then open them up further and investigate as we need to. We can also see what our current top opportunities are, and we're back to timesheets as well. Okay. So I'm going to swap back into my business manager. So as you can see, there's quite a list, and in fact, this isn't even the full list. There is quite a list available of different role centers possible. And as I said earlier, you can actually, in Business Central now, create your own role center. And some of the benefits around this, for example, I can drill in here. I can see what my sales invoices are. So all of these queues you can drill into and see the value behind them. I can also, we can see that we have visual indicators here. So again, behind this, there's a green line, so you can see our sales this month. So the green line means that we're over a certain value that we set ourselves, and therefore it's a positive outcome. We can see here that this is red because we are there are invoices that are beyond a certain value that we've set that need to be chased up, and that red indicator is telling us now it's urgent. People need to be chased to follow that up. And then we have an orange, although it's not very orange in this particular screen, but we can see that we have overdue invoices that we have to pay. So all of this, again, available on your role center. Okay. Right, so as the next part of the demo, we're going to jump in and have a look at Outlook. And why are we looking at Outlook? We're looking at Outlook because Business Central is a Microsoft product. So one of the key benefits of going with the Microsoft ERP system is its innate integration with other Microsoft products. For example, Outlook, Excel, Word, all of these things are integrated in, it appears seamlessly. So I'm going to swap into Outlook to show you what I'm talking about, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to follow an email that's come in from a customer. The customer is asking us for a quote for a couple of items, and all from within Outlook, we're going to create a sales quote, we're going to email it to the customer, we're going to make it into a sales order, we're going to ship the goods, and we're going to invoice the customer all directly from within Outlook. And then depending on time, we'll swap back into Business Central and we'll see the payment from the customer coming in, and we'll record that. So that's the end-to-end process for this particular sale. Okay. So how does this work? I have an email in here from a customer. So Irene is set up in Business Central with an email address that's attached to a customer. She could also possibly be a vendor. She may have an email address that's connected to a vendor account. So when that is the instance, Business Central will show you which account do you want to use. Do you want to use your customer account or do you want to use your vendor account? So in this particular situation, Irene is a contact for the company called the Canon Group. So we're going to have a look at, okay, how do we see information about that? So we have our email here. Irene is telling us she's fitting out a new office and she's looking for a quote for 2 items, and she's given us the date that she needs them delivered on. So all from within Outlook, I can drill into Business Central. So we have down here our contact insights. So essentially what that does is it links into Business Central and into the customer card for this particular contact. So now I've got key information for that customer available to me within Outlook. This is really powerful stuff if you're on the road and you're using a tablet or you're using a phone. It's the same. The screens are going to morph to fit whatever application you're using or whatever device you're using. So in this case, I'm still on a laptop here, so it's formatted for that type of a screen. Okay. So we can see that the customer is the Canon Group. We can see the customer number. We can see the balance for the customer. We can see that they're overdue, which we have another red visual indicator to tell us that these particular items are overdue. We can see the receivables time. So how long are they overdue? And we can also see the history. So now we can see the current ongoing transactions or documents that we have in process with the particular customer. We can also see the history. We can see their history of sales invoices that have been posted for that particular customer. We can see shipments. We can see return receipts, so goods the customer has sent back to us. And we can open up all of these. So we can open up the invoice. Let's say the customer asks us, would you send me that invoice 103041? I can't find it. So you can go into Business Central and you can send it. So straight away it can go back out to the customer. And all is that, again, available from within Outlook. So we have an example here. It opens up straight away. We can see that it brings in the body of the email. It brings in the invoice number, the due date and the amount. A little note saying we have a payment discount offering if you pay early, and we can open up the invoice here, all within Outlook. And then it's worth noting that this particular format of invoice, it is coming from a Word template. So this is where Business Central integrates with Microsoft Word. We can define templates for our documents such as invoice credits, statements, POs, order confirmations, any document shipments, any document that might be an external document going out to a customer or a supplier. You can make it, you can define the format of that document. So the benefit of that is that you can essentially have a much more improved layout of the documents that are outgoing. You can also do things like at Christmas, you can put in extra notes at the bottom saying Merry Christmas, or if you have offerings that you've got a specific item that you want to sell and it's going on a discount, you can put a note in at the bottom of your invoice. So you have a bit more control over the actual format of your invoice. You can also default them to particular customers. So you might have one customer getting a format A and another customer getting format B. You have that option available too. Okay, so we've seen that we can go in and see all about the customer's account directly from Business Central, but there's also more information. So on this box here, essentially we can open up the customer card. So let's say, for example, that's all a bit squished and I'd like to see a little bit more. I can open it up in a new window. We're still within Outlook here. We're not within Business Central. So this is the customer card for the Canon Group, who is the company that Irene is linked to. So I can see that we have a credit limit. I can see what their balance is. I can see their total sales, their address details, their tax number, their payment method, the payment terms. All of this is available from within Business Central. Excuse me, from within Microsoft Office, Outlook even. Okay, so what are we going to do? We want to create, we want to create a new quote for Irene. So we're going to go into Business Central and we're going to select a new sales quote. So from here, Business Central is suggesting that it creates a sales quote for these two items. So how does it know that? It's reading the text in the email and it's looking for items in Business Central with the same text, and it can see that it's got quantity as well. So they're just suggestions, but I am happy to go with those suggestions. So what that does is now we have a sales quote that I'm just going to pop out so I can see more about it. Now we have a sales quote for the Canon Group for the two items that Irene asked a price for. So what we don't have here is the delivery date. So I can put in her delivery date of the 30th of June. Now we're using the year of 2021 because the demo company comes like that. So we're in 2021. So now we have the requested delivery date. We can put in how many days our quote is valid for, but essentially this is our quote now. So from here, we can send it to our customer. Send by email. We can open it up and have a look at it, but I am happy to go with that. Okay, so that's our quote sent to our customer. So let's say our customer has received our quote and they are happy with the quote and they've decided, yeah, I'm good with that. Can you please go ahead and make that into an order? How do we do that? We can do that all from within Outlook. Now, just before I do that, I'm going to show you the particular quote that we've just created in Business Central. So when we swap into Business Central, I can go up to my search box here and I can search for sales quotes. Okay, so we have one sales quote up here for the Canon Group, and I can open that up. And this is the quote that we just created in Outlook. You can see there is our delivery date, requested delivery date of the 30th of June, and we have our two items for 12. Okay. So let's say there's one thing that we forgot to do in our quote. We can still go back into Outlook. We now have one sales quote in our queue. We can open up our sales quote. So what I want to do is I'm going to say that the customer said to me that, okay, you may not have the color that I want for my chairs. You may not have blue, but if you have something else, you can put in other options. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comment to my line on my quote, and I'm going to say other colors are fine. Okay, so if we run out of it, we have the note that we can go and we can replace the blue chair with different colors if we have them. Okay, so we're happy with this quote. So what we're going to do now is make it into an order. So we have entered the quote once. We don't have to re-enter the order. We can generate an order based on the quote. Make order. Do you want to convert the quote? Yes, I do. So now we can see that a sales order has been created. Sales order number 1014. We're getting a note that's telling us that the customer has an overdue balance. So we still get the notifications that you would get in the ERP system, all within Outlook. Okay, so we have our sales order, which I'm going to pop out so I can see it on a larger screen. Okay, we have our sales order. It's brought in our requested delivery date. It has brought in our quote number, all from up here. So we have all of this available to us. If we click on our London chair, we'll see that the comment that we added on our quote is passed on to the sales order. And now here we also have options of checking if there's any prices available for this particular customer. So we can see that for this particular item, for all customers, if you purchase 10 of them, you're going to pick up a price of 115. And if you purchase 20 of them, we're going to sell it at a price of 110. So there are quantity breaks there, which are all visible within Outlook. Okay. And you can see that the system is automatically applying the price of 115 because we've ordered more than 10. You can also check stock levels here from within Outlook. So we can see the location. We can see that we are looking for 12 from the blue location and that we have plenty in stock to be able to fulfill that. So it looks good that we're quite happy to send the stock out to the customer. So let's say we've been contacted by the warehouse and they told us that when these goods have been shipped out to the customer, there is quite a different. There are a lot of different rules that you can have on warehousing in Business Central. For this particular location, there are no rules in place that you need to go through inventory picks. So essentially, we don't have a warehousing staff looking after our warehouse. We simply have a room at the back with a warehouse that we have one person lifting tables in and out of. So in that case, we don't need to go through the warehouse documents to issue this item out of stock. So in this case, I'm quite happy just to ship the items to the customer. So I can do that again, all within Outlook. I am going to post it where I can ship it, and I can part ship it if I want, or I can ship the whole thing. But in this particular case, I've shipped the whole thing. So that generates the posted shipment for that particular account. And then at a later date, I can always come back in and I can invoice it, all from within Outlook. Okay, so of course this means that the same documents are being created in the background in Business Central. So if I click back into Business Central, and if I go into my posted sales invoices, we'll see that our latest one here is created for our quote based on the quote that we sent Irene, quote number 20. And we'll see that even at this stage, we can see that the comments have been passed to the invoice. So it's just to show you that there is a flow from the documents originating from the quote to the order to the invoice. Okay. So at this stage now, we're happy that we have gone through the sales process and we're looking for the payment for that money to come into Business Central. This is something that is processed in Business Central, not through Outlook. So we'll do that within our cash receipt journal. So we can go up here and we can select our cash receipt journal. We can't, cash management. And we are going into our cash receipt journal. So in here, we're going to use the general. In fact, we'll use, these are just batches where you can default which bank, for example, that this money is going to be paid into. So in this case, we are going to be recording a payment. The payment is from a customer. Our customer is the Canon Group. So I can type in the name of the customer and it automatically finds it for me. So what I can do at this point is I can look for the invoice that they're particularly paying. So let's say in this case, they are paying the invoice that we just generated. We can drill in and we can see all of the outstanding invoices for this particular customer. The one that we generated, this one is appearing in red because it's overdue. So if we check the due date, it would be beyond what our existing work date is. Now in Business Central, as I mentioned earlier in the demo company, we're working off the future. So my work date, so it essentially thinks that today is the 28th of January, which is why this is due. Okay, so it appears in red. It gives you those key items, key visual indicator as well. So I should be really recording the payment for this one, but just to follow through our full sale, I'm going to select this item here. So now it's brought in the fact that we are recording the payment for our particular invoice that we've generated. And from here we can post it. Okay. So that's the full end-to-end work processed from the quote to the order to the invoice to the cash receipt, and 90% of that was handled in Outlook. Now, it may not be the case that you would want 90% of it handled in Outlook. It's just to show you what is possible. This is also possible on the other side of it from the purchasing. So as I said, you could be a vendor set up as a contact in Business Central. If that supplier sends an email to you and Business Central picks up the email address, now you have access to that supplier account all from within Outlook. Okay. Okay. So just before the next section that I'm going to show you in Business Central is around purchasing. So I'm going to set up a purchase invoice, and then I'm going to set up a purchase order. I'm going to send it for approval, and we're going to look at how we can approve that particular purchase order. Okay. So I'm going to jump into I have a different session open here. So this particular session, I'm going to log in as a different user so that I can generate a PO and send it for approval. So this particular user is set up as a purchaser. So their role center is all purchasing orientated. So we're going to create a new purchase order. We can do it for any of our suppliers. Let's say we'll pick up this guy. And let's say that we're looking to purchase the Athens desk because we know that we're selling it. So we're going to have to buy a few more. I'm going to buy 5 of them. I have my price cost come in there on my order. This is the key information. We can see that the status is open. So that means essentially it's draft. It hasn't been approved yet, and that in that case we can't do anything with it. So we can't receiving goods against it until it's been through the approval process. So I am going to send my purchase order for approval. So my PO has been sent. Okay. So now I'm just going to, you can see, sorry, my status there changed to pending approval. Like here, your status will say pending approval once you've sent it for approval. And I'm just going to jump back into my business manager profile, who is the approver for that limited user. So now what we'll see is down here under request to approve, it's changed from 3 to 4. And if I drill into it, we can see the latest one that's being created here was for this guy for Fabricam. Sorry, this one down here for Fabricam. This is the one that we just created. Now, just before I approve this, just to let you know that these approvals do go via email. So for example, if I have an example of one here, so this is the sort of email that you will receive if you are an approver. It will tell you that your this PO number requires your approval. It'll give you the amount of the PO, the due date, so that's the approval due date. It gives you the vendor details, and you can click on the link, and that will open up the link to the purchase order within Business Central. So that will be exactly the same as going into Business Central and clicking into this page. Okay, so from here, we can have a look and we can open up what this purchase order actually entails. Okay, so we can see that it's for this particular supplier. We can see that there's the 5 Athens desk that the user has sent for approval. We can check the currency, the payment terms for that particular vendor. How are we going to pay them? If there's a payment discount, what is that discount date? So all that is information that we can see. But we've also got some really important information here on the right-hand side. Because we have this particular supplier selected, and now we can see key details about that specific vendor. So we can see what the balance is on the account, how much we owe them, what our outstanding orders are, if we've any amount received not invoiced, anything that's overdue that we still owe them. So in this case, we don't. So this means that we're pretty much good to go and purchase from them. We can also have the history. So we might want to see, have we purchased this item before? So we can go in and we can look at open orders, or we can look at posted invoices. And then we also have key details about this particular item that we're purchasing. So we see here it's the Athens desk. So now we have over here details about that. Okay, so straight away we can see that there's 6 in stock. We can see that we don't have any prices defined. So sort of we have a default price, but we don't have any special prices defined for this particular item. And we can see that we do need to go through a workflow. So a lot of information available on the screens for you there. Okay, so I'm happy that this PO is correct. If I want, I can add a comment, I can pass it on to somebody else to approve it, or I can reject it. Now in this particular case, I'm happy to go with it, so I'm just going to approve it. Okay, so when I go back to my purchase order, my request to approve is down to 3. And then when we swap back into the other profile, this is for the limited user, we can, at the top, we can hit in-search, and I know that my PO ends in 902, and we can see that the status for our PO has changed to released. Okay, so that's quite a lot. That's sort of powerful information, all available there within Business Central. So it's just to show one example of a workflow. And based on your workflow, there's many rules that you can set in place as to how something is approved. So in this particular case, I've set it up a user called limited. Anything that they approve goes straight to me for approval. But you could have it whereby that user is allowed purchase items or services up to a value of €1,000 or €5,000. And then after that, it'll get approved. If that person sends something for approval, they can automatically approve up to that value. And then after that, it gets passed to me. And then I might have a limit on how much I can approve. And after that, it gets passed on to my manager and so on and so on. So those rules can be set in place for purchasing, for quotes, and for sales as well. You can also put in workflows for things like new customers. If someone's changing a credit limit, it can trigger a workflow and approval that needs to be passed before that credit change is allowed. Okay, so there's quite a lot there in the background working on to keep that going. Okay, so just before I jump out, I'd just like to show you some of the, let me see, I'm still in my purchaser. I'm going to close my purchaser and I'm going to go back to my business manager. So just before I'm going to jump out of this screen and move into the reporting side of it, because that's really quite powerful. And one of the key things that's so important for people is reporting the values that are in their business, their ERP systems. So before I do that, I'm just going to show you what this looked like on tablets, other devices. So I can go up here to my cogs and I can go into design. And now I can look at my role center on a tablet. So the screen automatically changes to meet whatever device you're using. So I can see that I still have the same cues here. I still have the charts that I had on my desktop. I have the mini trial balance. I also have the option to create new documents, all from within my role center. I can also open up and look at my existing master files, like my customers, my vendors, my items, and all of these match what's on the default page when we looked at it when I'm using my laptop. Now we can also change and look at this from a phone's perspective. If I'm out on the road and I get an approval, I can very easily either jump into it through Outlook or I can jump straight onto my phone. I can go down to my request to approve. I can open it up and I can have a look at it here. So here's another one for the same supplier. I can have a look at that particular item. And from here, if I want to see more, I can see more. Now I can see that it's the items at the Athens desk that's being approved in this case. So we're back looking at something similar as we looked at before, and we can also approve this all from within our phone. So it's quite a powerful ability, and you can see that it's moved off my request to approve list. So it's good. It's a good way just to give you the idea of what the system looks like on different devices. Okay, so the next stage of our presentation today, we're going to look at reporting. So there's different options around reporting in Business Central. Within Business Central itself, there's over about 600 odd reports that are standard reports, but what makes it really powerful is by using Jet. So Jet is an add-on to Business Central, but it allows you to do so much around reporting. Okay, so what we're going to have a look at today and I think I can close that down, is we have, so for example, this is a very simple, so it's a demo JET report. We're looking at our top items sales by volume, okay? So we can see that we can run it for a certain date range. We can run it based on location. So we might have different warehouses around the country or around the world, and we might want to run this report specifically for either location. So this will give you an idea of what you have sold, what the volume, the quantity, the cost, the price, and the profit is on those particular items, okay? And then we can use slicers to look at it based on who the supplier is for those items, and it's quite powerful, powerful report. Now, what we're going to have a look at here today is we have we're creating items, we're calling it a sales analysis, a dashboard in 10 minutes. We'll probably spend a little bit more than 10 minutes on it today because I'll be talking you through what it does and how it works. So for example, this is a dashboard that's based on your sales, okay? So what does it do? It shows us I'm going to run it so you can see what it actually does do. I need to enable editing. Okay, so up here we have an extra option within JET, okay? So we can run this report. It's going to let us choose which company we want to run it for and the date range that we want to run it for, okay? So in this case, it's picking up a year. We're just going to click OK. And it goes in and it looks into Business Central for all the items that have been sold within that particular date range for that particular customer, for that particular company, and it creates this sales dashboard, okay? So within it, we can see our sales by sales rep, by country. We can see what our top selling items are. We can see our sales and profit by customer. And then we can use the slicers here on the left-hand side to drill into that a little bit more, okay? So if we wanted to see our sales for Peter Shadow, we could look in and we could see, okay, these are Peter's sales. Or we could look at and see these are John's sales, okay? So what we're going to do in this demo today is we're going to recreate this dashboard and show you how easy it is to do using JET, okay? So I'm going to close this one. And I'm going to open a new Excel file. Okay, so we're starting from scratch from a plain new Excel file. We're going to go into JET and we're going to use the browser. So the browser lets us access all of the tables in Business Central. So I know in this particular case that I'm going to be looking at the item ledger entry table. So this records the items that are coming in and out of stock based on sales or purchases. So what I want to do, so here on our right hand side, we have all the fields that are available within that particular table. And I have starred a few, which are going to be the favorites that I'm using on the dashboard today. So I'm just going to select these particular favorites. And I'm going to drag them out here to Excel. Okay, so what does that give me? It gives me some important information, such as the cost of the item, the region where it was sold to, the description. It gives me the type, the item category, the item code, what date it was posted on. That's just not formatted. We'll make that formatted. Okay, we can see the quantity. We can see the sales amount, the salesperson, and the source number. So in this particular case, the source number will be our customer. But we need to put some rules around this because at the moment, this is bringing in items for purchases as well as sales, but we only want sales. So there's two ways that we can change that. We can go into JET and we can open up our NL function. So within this, we can put in filters. So we can tell it that we only want to look where the entry type is sale. Okay, so now straight away, we're only looking at the items for sales, and this is becoming more relevant. So you can see as soon as we did that, a customer number loaded because the first instance of a transaction that now meets our criteria has a customer number, okay? There's another thing we want to do. We want to put in a date range for that. So we want to create a report option because we want to be able to change the date range that this report runs from. So I'm going to start it on the 1st of the 1st, 2021, and our demo company data range. And I'm going to end it for the month of January. We're missing a 1. Okay, so there are report options. Now, once we have done that, we're going to create it as an actual range. So I'm familiar with my filters, so I'm just going to put in a date filter. And I'm going to say that my date filter is made up of my start date and my end date. Okay. So what that means now is that I can use that filter for my transactions. So I'm going to go back into my NL formula and I want to put in another filter. So I want to say where my posting date, and my posting date is essentially my transaction date, where my posting date equals, my date filter here. And I'll just do that one more time. And I'm going back to my NL. In fact, I can manually do it. So just to show you how to manually do it, I can put in that I want my posting date to be this value. Okay. So now when we run this, what this gives us is a list of all the transactions that are going to be used to create our dashboard. So we can see that they're all sales items. We can see that these are the different items. We can see the different transaction dates, the quantities, they're minuses because they're leaving stock to go out to the customer. We can see the sales amount. We can see the sales rep, the customer name. Okay, so actually we can't see the customer name. We can only see the customer number. So there's things we can do about that. So if we go back to our design, I can add in here a new field that says customer. So what do I want to get here? I'm going to use another function, another NL function, whereby I want the first instance in the customer table where, and if this is the field I'm looking for, which is the name, and I only want the name when the number of that customer is equal to this one here. Okay. So now you can see for the customer 110,000, it's the customer name is the Canon Group. Okay, this is looking good. We could do the same then for the item if we want. And just to show you the difference for the item, we can do the same thing when we're familiar with how the filters work. We can do it by just typing. So in this case, we want the first instance in the item table where the description is the field that we're looking for, and where the number of the item is the same as this one here in our line. Okay, and I've done something wrong there. Description I have spelled wrong. There we go. Okay, so now we've got the item description. Okay, there's one last few changes that I want to do to this data before we do anything with it. So I'm going to just change my heading to say sales. I'm going to change this heading to say, we leave the cost where it is. We don't have our margin in here. So I'm going to put in a new field. I'm going to call it margin. And within margin, I'm going to say that our margin is made up of our sales cost, and our cost is negative. So that works out and it shows us what the calculation of the margin is on this particular sale to the customer. Okay, so this is good. So what this means now is that we can start creating dashboards. So I'm going to call this my data, and I'm going to create a pivot table from it. So how do we do that? We highlight the fields that we're looking to create a pivot table from, insert, pivot table, click OK. So we're going to create 4 pivot tables. The first one is going to be our sales by salesperson. So we're going to create the salesperson, the margin and the sales. Okay. And I just prefer to have them sorted like that. Okay. So that's going to be our first one. And then based on that, I also want to insert a chart. So I'm going to insert a chart. I want to make it a pie chart, and I like the donut for the sales rep. So that's the one that I'm going to create. Okay. So we can change the layout of this particular chart, and we can add titles to it and labels to it. So I'm going to move my chart title over here, and I just want to call this one. I'm going to say sales by salesperson. Okay, so that's the name of our dashboard. And I can make that a little bit bigger if I want to. And I can also change the layout of it. If I prefer to do a slightly different style, I can change the style here. Let's say for the moment, I'm going to go with that one. Okay. So this is our first dashboard created, and I'm just going to call this one salesperson. Now I'm going to very easily to create my second one. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to create a new one. And my second dashboard is going to be by country. So I'm going to call it by country. I'm going to change my what's being displayed up here. I no longer want the salesperson, but I do want the country. So I'm going to bring the country down here, and I'm going to remove the salesperson. I'm going to change my heading here. And I'm going to change my chart. I don't want a donut like this, but I do like the pie charts. So I am going to change the chart type, excuse me, to a pie chart. Okay. And I have different options around the type of pie chart that I'd like to create. And let's just say I'll go with this one. Okay. Okay, so there's my second. I'm just going to change. There's my second dashboard. Okay. Now again, I can very easily create my next one just by copying my existing spreadsheet, create a copy, click new. And now I want to change this one, and I want to report on my top 10 items. So I'm going to call this items. I'm going to change my list here. I no longer want the country code, but I do want the item. Now I could take the item description instead of the item number if I wanted. So maybe I'll do that because it makes it easier to report on. Okay. So now we have just to change the type of chart that we want. So let's say I just want a simple column chart. Okay. So I am happy with something like that. I'm going to make this one longer because it's going to be reporting on more items. And I'm also going to filter it to my top 10 items. Okay, so it's going to be my top 10 for sales. Okay. And I just want to change my reference here to sales by item. In fact, I'm going to change it and say top 10 items. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to copy this one more time, and I'm going to create sales by customer. So I'm going to rename this and call it customer. I'm going to amend this, and I'm going to change it and call it, I want to change the type. Actually, before I change the type, I want to change the option here. So I'm going to select our customer. So I'm going to bring in again the customer name instead of the number. I'm going to remove the description, and I'm going to change the chart type. So I'm going to use the option down here. So we have this particular example is what I'm going to look for. Okay. I'm going to change, and I'm going to say top 5 customers. So let's say instead of everything, I just want a quick look at my top 5 customers. So how I can do that is I can limit it up here and say filter to top 10, but instead of top 10, I'm going to say top 10, 5. Okay. There. Okay. And we're doing it by customer. Super. I just want to check my chart type there one more time. Combo margin. Okay. Okay, so what does this look like? So now we can start building our dashboard, okay? So our dashboard is a combination of those pivot charts that we have just created. So we're going to start with the first one, which is the salesperson. And I'm just going to copy it into our report here, into our dashboard. I want to take by country, and I'm going to copy that in here beside it. Then underneath it, I'm going to bring in the items, the top 10 items. Then I'm going to stretch that a little bit, just so that it fits in with the same sort of layout. And then underneath it, I'm going to copy in our sales by customer. Copy, and I'm going to put that into our dashboard as well. And that's one that I'm also going to expand. There we go. Okay, so we're beginning to look like we have a dashboard now. Now, there's some key things that we have to do here. I want to bring in what our total sales are, what the total margin is, and what the margin percentage is. So I'm going to just first of all create some headings. Sales. I'm going to bring in total margin, and I'm going to bring in our margin percentage. Where do we get our total sales from? Well, we're going to get it from one of our pivot tables. So I'm going to go into country here. Oops, and first of all, I have to tell it what I'm doing. So I want to take our total sales. Okay, so now we have our total sales value. I want to do the same for margin. I'm going to take that from here as well. Now we have our margin, and we'll spell this one correctly. And now we can have our margin percentage. Okay. Oh, now we're going to start making these look a little bit pretty. Okay, we're going to change them, make them currency based. We are going to change the font. Actually, we're just going to merge a few fields here. So we're going to merge this. We're going to merge that. We have merged that one. And we're going to merge this one. And we're going to do the same underneath. Oops. We're going to merge it. And the same here. And lastly, we'll do the same here for our percentage. Okay, now we can format it so it looks a little prettier. We're going to change the background from blue, but we want to make the font white so that we can read it. And we're going to make it into a size that's readable. Okay, and now we're going to copy that format to here. And we're going to copy it as well to our margin percentage. Okay, we've lost our percentage, so we're just going to change that back. Okay, right. Now, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in a heading. We're going to say that it's our sales dashboard. And we want to tell it when that dashboard is for. So what is the date range that this particular is going to work off. Okay, so where do we get that from? Well, we're lucky we have that on our options tab here. Okay, so we are going to just merge these. And we are going to do the same here. I'm going to merge these. And now we're going to copy the format. Okay, and somehow we've lost our merge, so we're just going to merge. Okay. Right, so this is beginning to look a little bit more like what we want it to look like. We'll keep it at that for the moment. Okay. This one we can possibly reduce a bit. Date range isn't as important. Okay, and maybe we'll. Okay, so now we have some really important, valuable information right here. Next thing we want to do is we want to be able to slice and dice this information. So we're going to add in some filters, some slicers, should I say. Sorry, so we're going to just click on a chart. and we're going to insert, and this is standard Excel functionality, slicer. So we're going to countries, we want to look at by item code, we want to look at by salesperson, and maybe by customer as well. Okay, so now we have a few slicers. So we can, in fact, I'm going to put my customer down the bottom because that's a longer list. I'm going to put my salesperson list up here. I'm going to create my item category list here, my country list underneath it, and underneath that I'm going to put my customers. So how does that look? I'm fine with that there. I'm fine with that there. I know that I have many countries. So I'm just going to display more of them on the particular page. Okay. And the customers, because I'm looking at the name, I want to see the full name. So I'm quite happy with leaving them one by one. And I can pull this all the way down to just a bit of a format for my particular chart here. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the grid lines at the back. And when we do that, it begins to look a lot more like a dashboard. Okay. I prefer to make that bigger so that we can see it. So it is actually a dashboard. And when we do that, I've lost my merge, so I'm just going to extend that one a bit more. Okay, right, now I'm happy with this. Okay, so let's run our dashboard. So when we run it, we go up to Jet, we click Run, we default to the date range that we selected. So the following month you can update your date range, or you can run it for whatever date range you want to run it. Okay, so what have we got? So now we have our total sales for the period, the month of January. We can see our total margin and our margin percentage. Okay, so also we can see it by sales rep. Okay, we can see it by country, and we can see it where our top items are and our top 5 customers are. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of my chart here. Okay, so this is pretty powerful information. Okay, we have all of our sales by customer. We have it. We can choose to look. So let's say, for example, I want to see what we sell into Germany. So now I can see that in this. Oh, sorry, there's one thing I haven't done, and that's link my slicers. Okay, it's my last change that I have to do. So I have to just put a rule in place that all my slicers can be used in all of my pivot tables. Again, all this is just standard Excel functionality. And it is taking a little bit longer today because I'm explaining it. But once you know how to do this, you can actually fly through this setup. Okay, so I'm going to rerun. So now when we start using our filters, something wrong with the salesperson code. It should be showing 2 sales reps, but it's not. But for the moment, I won't worry about that. So what we can see now is essentially sales for GBP, for example. We can see what the value of sales in GB is. We can see what the items are that are sold into that area, and we can see where our sales are in that particular area. Okay, I've just clicked on the Canon Group, so now it's changed it, so it's filtered to show the Canon Group sales in GBP. Okay, so I'm just going to clear that, and I'm going to clear this here. So what's important, what's valuable information here? So what are these key bits of information that we can see? Okay, actually now we have our sales rep. So we have our sales rep here. We have the 2 different salespeople. So if we click on JR, we can see that JR sells to many different countries. Okay, we can see that these are the items that he sells into. We can see that he's got great margin on this particular item, which is the side panel. Okay, so we can see that quite easily. And we can see that there is a very high margin on this particular customer here. That's good news. For example, we can cross compare. We've got customer here who has a much lower margin, even though the amount of sales is comparable. This is a much more profitable customer. Okay. We can then click on our other sales rep, and they have a completely different view. We can see that this particular sales rep only sells into the country GBP. They only sell to 3 customers. We can see that they have a relatively low margin on most of the items. We can see that their big seller is to the Canon Group, but there isn't a huge profit on that particular customer. So it's really powerful information that we have now that we've created in 15 minutes, all there visible for us. So it's quite flexible to give you. You can build this to show whatever bits of information you want. So you might like, so now, for example, we can look at, okay, our sales of tables. What does that give us? Our tables now gives us 22,000 worth of sale, or 28,000 worth of sales. We have a margin of 22% on it. And what about chairs in particular? So now we can look and we can see that. We might want to see about our sales per country. So we saw GBP. That's quite a lot, but if alternative, we look at US, it's much lower. We've very low sales going into the US. That might be something that we need to expand on. You can see that we've only one customer that is sales for us, that is we're selling into in the US. So these dashboards are really powerful, really quickly, and that's what Jet gives you. It gives you the option to build these really easily. So I can finally, the last thing that I'm going to do about these dashboards, and I'm just going in to show you how this can be sent out to different users every month or every week or as often as you want, and what the end user will see. So we can put in this command hide sheet here. So I can say that the only one that I actually want to see when we run this report is our dashboard. So that means that when this report is run, it's only the dashboard that's going to be visible. Okay. Oh, sorry, wrong place. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to run it. And now all we'll see is our particular dashboard. We have one tab just giving us our sales values, the key sales values that we need to analyze for our business. So it's powerful stuff. Okay. So this can be used. We've done examples sort of in-house where we're analysing expenses like this as well. It can be used to analyse a stock turnover, anything at all to analyse your customers. So this is where this links it back into Business Central, using the power of dimensions. So dimensions are tags that you can default on master items like customers, like stock items, like general ledger accounts, like vendors. So you can classify. So similar the way up here we have an item category code. So every item can be classified with an item into an item category. You can do something similar. So you might have a brand, for example. So if you defaulted an item of what brand it is, now you can look at your sales by brand, or your purchases by brand. So all of that is information that's available to you once you have the power of Jet behind your reporting. Okay, so I've possibly finished up a little bit early on that, but are there any questions?
No, all good.
Okay, I'm not sure. It's difficult to sort of it's difficult to sort of come up with something that's relative to everybody, because every customer has different needs. But reporting is one of those things that's everybody wants and is powerful for everybody. And this, with just a little bit of time of learning how this can be done, there we have dashboards available to use however we want. So, and even though today we've seen Jet in a dashboard capacity, it also has pure reporting. So you can have the big long lists of data that you want to analyze. You can still run reports to group your data and to analyze them without using dashboards. Okay.
Yeah, that was a great session, Gemma. Thank you very much for delivering that. Very informative, very interesting. I'd ask you guys if you wouldn't mind, if you could just take a couple of minutes. There's a very short online form that I've just dropped into the chat there. It's just up a little bit on the chat there. If you don't mind clicking on the link, your feedback will be really important to us. We deliver a lot of these workshops, and you know they're always very useful, and it's always very useful to get people's specific feedback. We're also happy. Tom, he kicked off the session, our practice lead, and he had to drop off unfortunately. But we're very happy to organise dedicated one-to-one individual workshops with you guys if that's something that you're interested in doing, and kind of getting under the bonnet a little bit more on this. If this is, as I say, as Gemma says, it's tipping the iceberg really, you know, with the functionality, but it's something we're more than happy to set up and look at with you if that's something that's of interest to you. So that'd be great.
Sinead, just before I finish, the one thing I forgot to touch on was Codec Labs. So just to explain about Codec Labs, so that is essentially a department within Codec that will build functionality that may not currently exist in the ERP system that you're choosing, but that is crucial to your business. So Codec Labs is a specific department that manages that for us.
Yeah, and we've already built a number of Codec Lab solutions, as we understand it, Gemma. We've one for GDPR, we've a water accelerator one as well. So there's a number of other ones, I think, in the plans as well at the moment. So it's a very exciting kind of area of the business as well. So yeah, good point.
Okay.
We've also dropped in the LinkedIn profiles for the presenters there for Gemma and also for Tom Hickey. So it'd be great if you wanted to connect with them on LinkedIn. And if there's anything else that we can help you with, you know, be more than happy to help you.
Would it be possible to get a copy of the recording of this, Sinead?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we are recording all the sessions, and we have a number of other sessions as well that are running concurrently with this one. So across other topic areas that might be of interest to you. So on the feedback form, if you want to indicate which ones you might be interested in, we can send you the recordings of those workshops as well if you were interested, or your colleagues might have been interested but you couldn't join them because they're on at the same time. We'd be happy to share those as well. So yes, we'll certainly make that available to you. That's no problem. If you just maybe make a point of that on the online form, that would be super.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Okay. Everyone can access that form, can you? Just so I can make sure that the link has worked. If you click on it, just to make sure, because sometimes technology doesn't always work for us.
Yeah, it's working for me. Yep.
Okay. Super. Okay. Well then, folks, if you're happy enough to complete that, then we'll wrap it up. I think that's it, Gemma, isn't it? Really?
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thanks everybody. Thanks for listening and staying awake and all those good things. Thank you.
We hope you found it of interest anyway, folks.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gemma.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.